Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista, here on YouTube, and today is Wednesday, October 5th. So I did do some stitching last night. I caught up on The Patient with Steve Carell. Such a good show if you are not watching that. The episodes are too short though. They're only like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, something. Way too short. So I have had to do a lot of finagling with the tree and the fence because, like I said, I messed up somewhere up in the tree at the top. Well, first off, I finished putting the rest of the diamonds on for the little stars, and I think they look really good. So I messed up somewhere up in here, which meant I then messed up down in here. So what I decided to do, at the suggestion of a subscriber, which was awesome, she was like, you should come down and do the fence. That way it's easier for me to finagle or, fudge the tree. Because the tree comes out to here. So I can finagle that and it's not really going to matter. But when I stitched part of the fence last night, two of these didn't match up, and I didn't realize it until I got to the bottom. So I had to like tear out some stitches, but now it's done. Like, it's not, I haven't completed all of the stitches, but the outline is there. So that is the total look of the fence. And then I also wanted to do the knot in the tree. Now all I have to do is literally fill this in, then come down here. The tree goes through the fence, so it goes to the bottom. So I'm going to have to finagle that. But I am absolutely loving the slight variegation on the color in cotton. The color is Red Delicious. I think I did really well with picking that color. So absolutely loving that. So I am hoping to have this done this week. I will stitch tonight. But yeah, so that's my progress on it. And like I said, you would probably not even realize I had somehow miscounted up here if I had not told you. Because, I mean, you think about trees and grass and it just all looks kind of haphazard anyway. So, but yeah, at least now I know as far as like twinkling stars in the sky, I can use the diamonds. So that worked really well. So no purchases, nothing to show in that regard. I am going to read a small miracle story and then we're going to be done. Okay. Oh, someone asked a question. They said, how do I organize my specialty threads? I don't. All I do is I have one of those like scrapbook organization carts with the 12 drawers that pull out, the different colored drawers. You can get it at Michael's. I just have all of the threads like laid out flat in one of those drawers. I don't have that many. So I just have them all mixed up to Weeks, Classic Color Works, Gentle Art Sampler threads. I probably have 20 or 25 total. So no, that I just have them in there because I don't know what else to do with them. And it's not enough to really organize. Okay. So today's story . A certain homeless man who walked the streets of our neighborhood had become a fixture in our household over the years. My husband, Good Samaritan that he was, had seen Bert scavenging in our garbage cans one day and stopped to speak with him. Learning that he was homeless, he took pity on him and invited him inside for a hot meal. Since he was dressed neatly and spoke in educated, well-modulated tones, I never suspected a thing. His breadth of knowledge was far-ranging and extensive, and during dinner, he regaled us with intelligent and witty comments about politics, medicine, and urban affairs. My husband had deliberately refrained from telling me Bert's background, and by the time dinner was over and the truth was out, my prejudices about street people were shattered forever. I'm going to pause here for a second because I'm going to tell you a little story. So, I have to Okay. If you have seen Tyler Perry's movie, The Family That Prays, it stars Kathy Bates and I don't know the African-American woman's name. She's a wonderful actress. She's famous. I want to say it's like Violet something or Violetta. I can't remember. Anyway, Violetta, we're just going to say that's her name. Violetta she owns her diner. And from time to time, this homeless man will come in and she has a change of clothes for him and gives him a hot meal. So you come to find out that at one time he was a very successful financial stockbroker, banker. And I'm not sure what happened. His wife died or something and he just fell on hard times and he couldn't take it. So he just became homeless. Like he lost literally everything. But he still has that knowledge up in his head. So all these years that Violetta's been helping him, he has given her financial advice about what to invest in. And she is secretly a millionaire, which you find out at the end of the movie. That movie is my favorite Tyler Perry movie. I've seen that so many times. So your first assumption, don't assume. Okay. Bert was in and out of our lives over the course of the next 15 years. I learned that he held a master's in physics from City College and had experienced a nervous breakdown in his 20s after his mother, father, and fiance all died within a 3-month period. Wow. At first, I tried to help Bert. I spoke earnestly to officials at several social service agencies about trying to enroll him in welfare, getting him an apartment or at least a room, and finding him a job. I even made arrangements with a local senior citizen center to give Bert a free hot lunch every day. But he never kept a single one of the appointments I excitedly but naively made for him. Never even put in an appearance at the senior citizen center, where all that was required of him was that he show up. Eventually, I gave up. There was something wizard-like, secretive, and hidden about him, and it seemed as though he possessed a mysterious past that he was trying hard to conceal. In time, I began to accept Bert for what he was. I always opened our home to him and shared our meals with him, giving him cash and clothing whenever I had some to spare. But I no longer tried to change his life. Bert was pleasant company, jovial and witty, and I always marveled at his optimistic spirit. Despite his bleak circumstances, he seemed to be perpetually in a good mood. It was therefore never any kind of effort or sacrifice to have him around, even though my friends remarked constantly on my so-called altruism. After 15 years of hosting Bert without incident, 15 years, I was startled one day to receive a visit from a neighbor who said she had come to warn me about him. After 15 years? She couldn't help but notice his comings and goings, she said, and she wanted me to know that he was nothing but a common thief. How do you know this? I demanded in disbelief. Haven't you ever noticed anything missing from your home? She asked with a sly look. No, never, I replied. Well, you're so absent-minded to begin with, you probably wouldn't even be aware if something was stolen from under your nose. Why are you saying these things? I demanded. On what basis? I saw him in front of a local store the other day. The police were frisking him. He had stolen something from the shop, and the store owner, who I know personally, said that all the shopkeepers on the avenue have learned to be wary of him. He has a reputation for pilfering, and he's also said to be violent. Are you sure we're talking about the same man? I insisted, incredulous and shaken. It's definitely the same man, the neighbor answered with certitude. I'd recognize him anywhere, so I came to tell you, beware. That evening, the doorbell rang, and with a sinking heart, I looked out the window and saw that it was Bert. My husband had taken our 2 sons to a baseball game, and I was all alone. For the first time since I had met him, I was suddenly afraid of Bert and didn't want him in the house. 15 years this woman has hosted him in the house. I stuck my head out the second-story window and yelled, "Hi, Bert, how you doing?" He squinted up at me, brows knitted in puzzlement. This was not part of our routine usually. Usually I just opened the door and warmly ushered him inside. Yitta, he stammered, confused by the obvious shift. Can you open the door? I'm starving. I felt anguished. Oh, Bert, I'm so sorry. I was just about to leave the house this minute for a doctor's appointment. Well, do you think you could wait just a little bit while I eat? It's cold tonight and I sure could use a warm meal. I thought of the 4 pieces of chicken and the mashed potatoes on the stove waiting for my family's return. Ordinarily, I would have given Bert my portion without hesitation, but after the neighbor's visit, I found myself gripped by fear. The jovial man who had graced our table for years as a friend suddenly loomed as a stranger whom apparently I had never really known at all. So sorry, Bert, I hedged. Really, I have to leave this minute. But tell you what, I'll pack a shopping bag for you with stuff you can eat. I raced around the kitchen, pulling out cheese, fruit, and hard-boiled eggs from the fridge, crackers, sardines, seltzer, and paper goods from the pantry. When I opened the door and handed the bag to him, his face had a hurt and bewildered expression, and I felt ashamed. Well, thank you for this, he said, gesturing towards the bag as he strode down the walkway. But I sure could have used a hot meal tonight. He threw over his shoulder before he disappeared. As I waited for my husband and children to return home from the baseball game, I wrestled with tumultuous thoughts, besieged by self-doubt. You did the right thing, comforted one voice. What are you, crazy to let a thief into the house? Charity is one thing and stupidity is another. You were wrong to turn him away, strongly rebuked another voice. He's been in your home for 15 years and nothing ever happened. You let yourself be swayed by vicious gossip. How can you know for sure it was really Bert she was talking about anyway? On and went all evening, the verbal sparring between my 2 inner voices never ceasing, my despair, remorse, and guilt growing with each passing minute. Had I done the right thing? Had I been wrong? How would I ever know the truth? Finally, my family came home from the baseball game starved, and I began to concentrate on serving dinner. Holding my husband's plate, I began walking towards the dining room table when I stumbled over a toy on the floor. The plate crashed to the floor and food flew in all directions. Don't worry, I have plenty to go around, I lied, planning to give my husband my portion. The second plate heaped with food had been safely navigated onto the table when the phone rang. It was for my husband, and he left his place at the table to answer the call. When he returned to the dining room, he stared in astonishment at the sight of our beagle, Flash, perched on her hindquarters, gobbling up his food from the plate. She had been with the family for 5 years and had never done anything like this before. Is there enough food to go around now? He asked, scowling angrily at Flash. Sure, I lied, wondering how I was going to stretch the remaining pieces of chicken 3 ways. Just as I approached the stove a 3rd time, the light bulb in the overhead hood inexplicably exploded, scattering shards of glass all over the burners and into the pot of food which I had left uncovered. Hearing the pop of the exploding bulb, my husband came into the kitchen to investigate and immediately flung the pot's contents into the garbage can. Is our dinner jinxed tonight? He joked good-naturedly, and I began to cry. Why are you crying? He chided. It's not your fault. Oh, yes, it is, I sobbed, and I explained what had happened with Bert. As my husband and boys left the house for the nearest restaurant, I thought of Bert, who didn't have recourse, who didn't have hot food in his belly to keep him warm through the cold night. Before the coincidental mishaps with the food had occurred that evening, I had wondered long and hard about whether I had done the right or wrong thing about Bert. Had I canvassed my friends for their opinions, which I typically do whenever I'm faced with a moral dilemma, I'm sure the answers would have been conflicting, indeterminate, and confusing. Some friends would have reassured me that I was justified in closing both my house and heart to Bert, while others, I know, would have scolded me rigorously for listening to gossip and not giving Bert the benefit of the doubt. My soul-searching would have remained tormented, my quandary unresolved. But attuned to the message of the mishaps, I knew that I had made a mistake. For in the coincidences, I had found the incontrovertible truth. So the comment, because this was by the author of the book, the universe provides the answers to our questions. We can hear them if only we open our hearts and tune in our souls. Now, you have to realize, too, that they never really explained why Bert was, stealing, but he was probably stealing because he needed to eat. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know, but wow. Yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, have you ever made like a choice that you know in your heart is wrong, and then like everything else that day just goes wrong? Do you know what I mean? I think we've all had instances like that. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct. Okay. I hope you guys all have a great Wednesday. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.